If you bought a condo after March 2018, you're losing thousands of dollars every month. Whether you bought it to live in it or as investment property, make sure you watch this video where I will go over the 5 reasons why you need to sell that condo in 2026 and stop losing tens of thousands of dollars. The first reason is maintenance fees. Up till about 2020, maintenance fees were rising around the inflation rate. However, since the pandemic, we've seen significant inflation increase, which has been reflected into the maintenance fees. Now, the risk with higher maintenance fees is it devalues the condo as it becomes more expensive. So before the pandemic, below $1 per square foot, with respect to the maintenance fees, so 75, 80, 85 cents was the norm. However, as now prices have increased and inflation has caused pretty much everything with respect to the cost of living going up, the per square foot has been hovering around the $1. Now, I've seen condo buildings where the maintenance fees is well over the dollar per square foot. Now, this is a risk to a condo owner. And again, whether you live in that condo or you bought it as an investment, because as the maintenance fees increases per square foot, it puts downward pressure on the price of the condo. I'll give you 2 examples. One is a condo that I personally owned and sold in 2018 as I noticed the rate of appreciation of the maintenance fees was above inflation, and I decided to sell it back then in the spring of 2018. At that time, it was what still is a 1-bedroom condo in the downtown core that I sold for $555,000. The owner, the buyer who bought it from me in 2018, just sold that condo a few weeks ago at $489,000. So they've lost money from March. It was March, April 2018 till now. So 8 years later, they actually lost value from 555 to 489, and those losses are more significant once you take into account the land transfer taxes, the acquisition costs that they went through, and all the interest they paid over those years between 2018 and 2026. If you look at the screen, you'll see there a screenshot of a message that I got from a client of mine who owns this condo in central Toronto. So in the core, we'll just say in the Yonge and Bloor area. So it's very centralized. It's on the Bloor line, adjacent to the Yonge line. So very accessible to transit. It's a building with over 600 units. So this is not a boutique low rise with a handful of units. And as you can see in the screenshot, their maintenance fees over the last few years have accelerated way above the inflation rate. This is a risk that I've discussed with my client because it will devalue the condo. As the maintenance fees per square foot crosses over the $1 into $1.25, $1.30 possibly, that will put downward pressure on the value of that specific condo. So this is one thing as a condo owner, and again, whether you live in it or you're renting it as investment property, you have no control of, and it is something that could negatively affect the value of your property. The second factor is the supply of new condos being completed this year and purpose-built rentals. Now, as the last batch or wave of new completions comes to market, and right now, or I should say the latest report, there were 4,300 units finished, completed, and where buyers backed out or the developers could not sell. That's inventory sitting on the market, and the final phase will be coming to market in 2026 of all those pre-construction condos. So that increases the supply of condos available on the market. And simple economics 101, as supply increases and currently the demand is low, stable, or declining, that will continue to put downward pressure on condo prices. Now, within the condo market, you also have to break it up into sub-markets. So the smaller units where we'll call them junior one bedrooms, bachelors, under the 500 square foot, no parking. Those units are tougher to sell, to rent, and to liquidate. However, larger units, larger 1+ dens or 2 bedrooms with parking, those are selling. However, they're not reality appreciating compared to a detached house or semi-detached property, but they are moving because they are more livable, more functional, and parking is something buyers are looking for at this time. The other part is the purpose-built rentals. And you might be wondering, how could that impact you as a condo owner? The reason that will negatively impact the value of your condo is as more supply of purpose-built rentals come to market, rents will come down. So young professionals moving to the city or working downtown will move to these professionally managed purpose-built rental units at a competitive rental price. And because the rents have come down, the gap between the cost of renting versus the cost of buying a condo will increase. It does not make sense for those potential tenants for now to buy a condo. So these purpose-built rentals are pulling out of the pool of potential buyers that could buy this year, next year, or the year after. And the only way for them to get into the condo market, to incentivize them to buy a condo in this city, the price has to come down significantly enough for the math to make sense with respect to renting versus buying is pretty much on an equal level. So this is why those purpose-built rentals are negatively impacting condo owners. And at the same time, they're impacting the real estate investors because as more rental supply comes to market, rents come down, and that creates a larger negative cash flow for real estate investors. The third reason is special assessments, which I do call the silent value killer. As buildings age, more work is required, maintenance, major repairs are required, such as roof replacement, HVAC, elevators, underground parking repairs, structural issues, and all those big projects cost a lot more than they did pre-2020. So in some cases where I've seen some buildings, the reserve fund actually did not have adequate funds to replace the windows. They had to resort to special assessments where the individual owners of these condos got a bill based on the square footage of their units. So in some cases, some got 20,000, some got 35,000, and it's just a large bill to pay for. And in some cases, some owners do not have the funds to pay for those large expenses. When the time comes to sell the condo, if there is a special assessment on the status certificates, that is a negative, and that will be negotiated out of the price of the condo sale. The fourth reason is condos are commodities. The reality is the floor plate of a condo building is pretty much the same across the board, with a few exceptions, maybe the lower penthouse level and the penthouse, and maybe the second floor because of the amenities and facilities of the building. But the reality is it's one floor plate layout that is replicated over so many floors. So if you own one unit, there's probably, depending on the number of floors in that building, but possibly could be another 20 or 30 similar units in the building. And that makes your condo or the condo you own a commodity. And when it comes to, and the economics of a commodity is price driven. So if there are 5 or 7 same units for sale in the building, because it's a commodity, at the end of the day, buyers will be driven by price, and that puts downward pressure on the price of the condo that is up for sale. It's not like a house where every house on the street is different. The layout of the floor plan, living room, dining room, bedrooms, some have extensions, some have a third floor, some have a walkout, and the lot sizes vary a little bit between semis and detached properties. Condos, it's pretty much one floor plate replicated over so many floors, and then adjacent buildings in the block could have similar layouts, which further commoditizes the condo units. If you're contemplating buying a condo, I've put a video together about the condos you should never buy, and there's a link to it in the description below, and you should see a pop-up in the upper corner right here. The final reason is the appreciation gap, and I'll go over two charts with you. The first one is the benchmark price of Toronto condos in C1 and C8. Now, those two pockets, if you want to call, that's the downtown core. So it goes from Dufferin all the way to Bloor, all the way to DVP, and then from Bloor down to the lake with Yonge Street as the divider. So west of Yonge is C1, east of Yonge is C8. And if you take a look at the charts, you will see that the benchmark price, and C1 is the red line, was, let's just call that 576 in March 2018. So if you bought a condo March 2018, the benchmark price was, we'll just call it 576. And if all the way to now, so 8 years later, it's at 575. So 8 years of ownership, 8 years of maintenance fees, property taxes, mortgage interest. The value of these condos has been flat. Obviously, you can see it's gone up in the 21, 22, and it's come back down. But if you bought in March 2018, that benchmark price is the same today in April of 2026. You can see similar trend on the, we'll call that a blue line, C8, which is the east of Yonge, to the DVP Bloor down to the lake, which was 505 in March 2018. And now we're looking at 504 and change in April 2026. This is key because if you bought that condo March 2018 or later, as you can see, the value has not gone up for those 8 years. And this is an issue because usually first-time buyers move into the condo space, build their equity, pay down the mortgage, it appreciates, so they can have a decent down payment for the next purchase, which could be a semi-detached or a detached property in the city of Toronto if they stay in the 416. But because these values have been flat for the last 8 years, this is a problem for condo owners because it will restrict their ability to move up the home ownership ladder. And I'll explain this by looking at the second chart. This chart is for detached properties in the city of Toronto. And again, I've mapped it out from March 2018. So if someone bought a house, a detached house in the 416, so this is all the way to western edge of Etobicoke, east to Scarborough, up to Steeles up north, the benchmark price, we'll call that 1.476 million in March 2018, and now it's 1.715. So you can see there about 270,000 of appreciation over March 2018 all the way to April 2026. Now, this is where the gap matters because the detached properties in the city, and again, because there's no more land available, have appreciated by since March 2018 to April 2026. The gap for the condo owners has become larger to jump over to get into owning a freehold property in the city because their values have been flat for the last 8 years, whereas the detached properties have appreciated. And again, you can see that it went up during the pandemic years and then came back down. But overall, over those 8 years, the detached properties have appreciated, but at the same time, the condo prices stayed flat. So that V gap, the gap between condos and owning a detached property in the city, has increased and become more difficult due to the price of houses, number one. Number two, the cost of living is much higher compared to 2018. Property taxes are a lot higher compared to 2018. And then obviously mortgage rates do play a factor because that will impact the affordability of home ownership. Take a look at this video if you're wondering if you should buy a home in 2026 or wait. If you own a condo, again, whether you live in it or as an investment property, waiting for the market to change is not a strategy. It will lead to more loss of equity. Book a call via the link below to discuss your exit strategy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.